Howdy, hello, and welcome. My name is Hellhunter120, and today I would like to take a look-see at Nioh. This isn't a review video per se, I'm not going to be giving it a score, but if you are curious, then I can tell you up front that I hardly recommend it. And by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of why. Don't worry, there won't be any story spoilers. This is going to be an exploration of the game, its mechanics, its goals, and how well I feel it executes on them. Nioh is an action RPG, oft described as a mix of Dark Souls and Ninja Gaiden. However, despite the comparisons, Nioh handily differentiates itself from the Souls series. When you first start up the game, you're presented with a choice of 3 modes to play in. You can choose between Action Mode, which prioritizes a higher frame rate in exchange for dynamically lowering the resolution to maintain that frame rate, Movie Mode, which locks the frame rate to 30 but maintains a higher resolution, and Movie Mode with variable frame rate, which maintains the resolution and allows the frame rate to potentially go above 30 at the risk of it feeling not quite as smooth. This choice of graphics versus frame rate was the final straw that ended up selling me on the game initially. Even though Action Mode is the one true choice, merely having the option to choose for yourself in a console game is something that should be recognized and encouraged. After the first 2 missions, you are introduced to a section of a map of Japan, which is one of the biggest ways that Nioh is different from Souls. Instead of one big open world to explore and traverse, Nioh gives you a choice of locations containing missions. There are main and sub-missions to choose from, and they will often have you revisit the same level map. At first glance, this sounds like it could lead to tedium, replaying the same map multiple times, but Nioh does a fantastic job of mixing up the enemy types, enemy placements, and even the atmosphere of the level itself. On your first visit to the first main mission, a midnight journey through a small fishing town wreathed in flame and stalked by bandits and demons, your goal is a ship in the town's port, the ship in question housing a particularly strong Oni. On your second time through, during a sub-mission, it's now mid-afternoon, the fires have been extinguished, and you traverse the town in reverse, in search of a pirate leader. The way the levels are designed allows for multiple different routes to be available to you, and required of you, by way of playing through different missions on the same map. The way the developers change up the experience between each mission keeps the game feeling fresh, even when you're moving through areas you've already seen. And speaking of feeling, the entire game just feels so damn smooth. Really, everything. From the menu to the movement. The movement feels responsive and intuitive, and the combat feels challenging, varied, and just oh so satisfying. There are only 5 weapon types: katana, dual katana, spear, axe, and kusurigama. While that may sound limiting, you have a ton of options at your disposal. For starters, in combat, you can choose between one of 3 stances at any time: low, mid, or high. Low stance is specialized for faster attacks and movements, allowing you to get in, get some hits, and get out. Mid stance enhances your ability to block, and high stance prioritizes raw power in your attacks. They'll be stronger, but significantly slower, and your dodge will be slower than in mid or low stance. Apart from those differences though, each stance has an entirely different moveset for each weapon, and they're meaningfully different too. As I've mostly been playing with a kusurigama, I'll use that in my examples. In low stance, in addition to the general increase in mobility, your light attacks will be a very quick succession of hits with the weighted ball on the chain. Each individual hit is fairly weak, but they're quick and they might interrupt an enemy before they can attack. In mid stance, your light attack is this wide swing with the ball, which is very good for zoning, hitting multiple enemies, and enemies that want to try to play keep away. In high stance, it's another series of swinging hits with the ball, but fewer and slower than the low stance. And more importantly, they won't reflect off blocking enemies' weapons, allowing you to wear down their stamina, opening them to a powerful attack. Choosing the right stance for the situation is key in later game engagements. For example, you can switch to low stance, very briefly, to dodge an attack and get behind an enemy, switching quickly to high stance for a damaging blow. The system takes some getting used to, but mastering it yields a satisfying depth in combat. Speaking of depth, Nioh offers you the ability to unlock skills for each weapon type, allowing you to customize the way you fight with your preferred weapon. Skills can range from a parry that negates an enemy attack and positions you behind them, to a simple kick, to a scorpion style, "Get over here!" Not only that, but you can customize your moveset down to what kind of combo ender you want for each stance. While I am personally very much positive on the flexibility of the system, I can understand why some people may not like it that much. Having to invest skills to have a full range of moves encourages specialization to a degree and may scare people off from trying new weapons down the road. There is, however, a skill respec item you can buy from the blacksmith at any time, so if you really want to, the solution exists. Point is, Nioh not only gives you the tools to make meaningful choices in how you approach combat, but also gives you the flexibility to mold those tools to your specific desires. On the subject of stamina, Nioh handles it in a really interesting way. I will hereafter refer to stamina as ki. While you attack and dodge, you expend ki. When you run out, your bar turns red and you stand still for an extremely stressful 1 second or so, until it begins to regenerate. In order to avoid this, you can do what is known as a ki burst, which is effectively a timing-based reload on your ki. After finishing an action, these blue lights will swirl about your body. Pressing R1 at just the right time performs the ki burst, refilling your ki a fair amount, and beginning its regeneration immediately. Think of it as an active reload a la Gears of War, but for stamina. Not only that, but demonic enemies have the ability to create areas of fog that will halt ki regeneration within them, and performing a perfect ki burst in these zones will disperse the fog, removing the threat. Put all that together, and you have a surprising amount of depth for what would otherwise be a mundane system in any other Souls-like game. For most standard enemies, you don't have to micromanage your ki too heavily, just a string of light attacks will deal with the weak guys pretty consistently, but against some of the bigger guys, you'll have to keep it in mind, or you'll pretty often get knocked on your ass. Another option you'll have in combat involves your guardian spirit, hereafter referred to as your Nioh pet. You'll have a choice of many different Nioh pets as you progress through the game, each giving you a set of bonuses and the ability to activate a super mode of sorts called Living Weapon. After activating your Living Weapon, your health and ki are replaced by a meter that depletes over time as you attack and as you take damage. While it's active, you deal additional damage, and you can use an attack unique to your selected Nioh pet. And on top of being able to get you out of a jam, they're just so darn cute. Just look at this little bastard. And you can have a Shiba Inu! Or better yet, 2 Shiba Inu! Nioh features a loot system not unlike Diablo, with rarity levels from white being most common to purple being most rare. And they give you a lot of loot. Pretty much every other enemy will drop some form of gear for you to pick up. At first, it can feel a tad overwhelming. I found myself constantly going into my menu to see what I had picked up. Honestly though, you really don't have to babysit it too much. You actually have a lot of options for what you can do with all that excess loot. You can either straight up sell it to the blacksmith, you can break it down for materials to forge into gear of your choice, or you can offer it at the shrines that serve as this game's bonfires for some extra items and Amrita, this game's equivalent to souls. Additionally, you can do what's called soul matching. Say you find a weapon that you've grown attached to, but you find something significantly higher level later on. You have the option to feed the new stronger weapon to the old one that you like. Doing this will raise the level of your preferred weapon, keeping it relevant and giving you a way to use what you want to over time without handicapping yourself. There are a lot of enemies in Nioh, and more importantly, a lot of enemy variety. The first few hours will find you fighting mostly humans with variances in armor and weapons. As you progress, however, the balance shifts more towards varieties of demons, from the classic hulking yoki to an umbrella with a leg. I'm just around 30 hours in, and I'm still encountering new enemies on a pretty consistent basis. Every time you fight a new enemy, it's a game of figuring out what the best approach is to countering it. Every fight feels like a dance, and you've just got to find the right moves. Some enemies will have specific weak point, for example. Big cycloptic Oni don't really like it when you shoot them in the eye. and if you break Yoki's horn, it will assume the position for you. Certain stances might offer a certain moveset that makes it easier to hit an enemy's weak point, to touch back on the subject of having choice in combat. As a matter of fact, I feel it always comes back to that. Nioh is a game all about choices and not the dialogue variety. The game is very fast-paced, but your moves must be deliberate. Go in with a plan, use the tools at your disposal to your advantage. Don't overextend yourself or you'll get overwhelmed. Choose not just what you fight with, but how you fight with it. I like Nioh. Not that that should be ambiguous at this point, but it deserves to be explicit. I really like Nioh, and despite the few nits I could pick with it, the overabundance of loot chief among them, I can easily say that it blew past my expectations. I did say this wasn't a review video, but I can't help but say that I very heavily recommend picking this one up. And that, my friends, was just a look-see at Nioh. There's still a lot to be said, believe it or not, but I don't want to go into every little bit of nitty-gritty. Go see for yourself, explore, experiment, live a little, die a lot, but most importantly, have fun. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more. I upload 2 videos a day, Monday through Friday, for my Let's Play series Video with Games, and I wouldn't mind taking another look-see at a game that genuinely tickles my fancy like Nioh did. But for now, this is Hellhunter120, signing out. Doodles!